Hi everyone, for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Sonia G Jumbo Base and the Sonia G Niji Pro. So I'm sure you already have an idea that this video is coming because I posted the unboxing of these two brushes prior to this video going live. And I do remember saying in a previous vlog about Sonia G brushes, I think when I got the mini Keyaki set, that if ever I'm going to purchase anything like, from the mini Keyaki set, I was going to purchase the Jumbo Base again, but in the Pro Series handle. So that's actually what I did, and I did this when she had a major restock on Vitalish a few weeks back. Now, the funny thing is, when I actually saw this on the Vitalish website, right beside this on the webpage was actually the Niji Pro brush, and I was like looking at it, and I do remember saying in a previous vlog, like maybe when this was released in November of 2021, so a little bit after that, I remember saying that I'm really not in a market for a big brush like this, and that's why I decided to skip it. Like, I would see it every once in a while, but it never really called out to me. But when I was actually purchasing this on the Vitalish website, the picture of the Niji Pro actually just started calling my name. It went like, Torre, get me. Torre, buy me. Torre, come on, add me to cart now. So yeah, so I decided to get it, and we will be talking about this and the Jumbo Base today. So first things first, so the Jumbo Base here, as you guys can see, it comes with a very nice, Pro Series handle, very beautiful. I still love how beautiful the lacquering is here, and this is the ferrule that we see here, and the crimp is here, and of course we can see that this is still the shape of the brush head. It's not any different from the mini Keyaki Jumbo Base, so let's put them side by side. So as you guys can see here, they're both the same in density, in strength, in brush head design. The only difference is the Jumbo Base from the mini Keyaki is actually shorter in handle than the Jumbo Base from the Pro Series from Sonia G. Now, in terms of weight, I can say the Jumbo Base has a substantial weight to it. Like, I could really feel it. I can feel the weight in my hand, but as you guys can see, it's actually well balanced. It just lays very nicely on my hand. And that's one thing I like about Sonia G brushes, is that they are very well balanced on the hand. And the Jumbo Base, it's a heavy brush. It's a top heavy brush because, as you guys can see, with the density of the brush head here, so if you're not careful in the way that you hold it or in the way that you put it on the table, it can have a tendency of tipping over, but it's just very well balanced, that we just have to be careful on how we actually hold this. In comparison to the Jumbo Base from the mini Keyaki set, now this one is really top heavy. It's really because I think the handle is very light and it's also quite short, so it's not able to balance out on the weight structure of the brush. So you just have to be much more careful on how you actually lay the mini Keyaki on the table to dry or in your hand, just so that it doesn't topple over, it doesn't fall off, and we just avoid the handles getting chipped or whatever. And of course, because I have a new brush with me, I'm going to try this out later, but if you want to see me talk about how I enjoyed getting to know the Jumbo Base brush for the first time, I do suggest that you go check out my review for the Sonia G mini Keyaki set when I actually first used this, and maybe that can give you some insight, because I'm not going to be talking about this brush extensively for this vlog, but I'm going to use it a bit later just to add some demonstration, things like that. So yeah, please go check that out. And of course, the pièce de résistance of this vlog is actually the Niji Pro brush. So I'm actually very excited to have this, because this by far will be the biggest brush head that I have in my collection. I think, as I've said before, I am not really in the market for brushes with very big heads, because I prefer to apply product in very specific parts of the face. So I really don't know how I'm going to be playing around with this, truly, but as I can see it from the shape now, I think it can be a multi-use kind of a brush. But before I continue talking about this brush in detail, one thing I do have to say though is that the outer packaging of the Niji Pro, doesn't come with a Kumano Fude seal. In comparison, this is the outer plastic packaging of the jumbo base, and we have the Kumano Fude seal here. Now, this just reinstates that the Niji Pro is not made in the town of Kumano in Hiroshima, Japan. Now, this is like a confirmation for me, because I do remember reading in one of the posts saying that there's no Kumano Fude seal with the outer packaging of the Niji Pro, and I was a little bit intrigued by that, but it's not. I wasn't like really surprised by it, because Sonia G has talked about this in her previous vlogs, wherein that there are many different brush manufacturers, not only in Hiroshima, maybe there's also in Osaka, or maybe in other towns in Hiroshima, not necessarily in Kumano, and she actually uses different kinds of manufacturers to produce certain parts for her brushes. I don't know where this is made exactly. It's not stated on the Beautylish website, and Sonia G is also not giving out that information. But at least, this is a nice brush to have, especially if you're a collector, because it just adds a variety into your brush collection, because at least you have a brush that is actually not made in Kumano, Hiroshima, Japan. And just by touching this alone for the first time, like really, really touching it, because I just washed this after I got it, and then now that it's dry, I'm actually able to feel it, and it's very, very soft. It is of good quality that I could really say rivals Kumano Fude brushes. So we will be trying this out later on the face, and I'm still trying to see in my head how I can use this kind of brush head shape and size for on the face. Alright, so this is the Niji Pro brush, and it comes with the Pro Handle series, the one that tapers into a much more slimmer point as it nears the base. And if we flip the brush, we can see the name Niji Pro here at the back, and of course the Japan stamp is there. And this is the very shiny ferrule here with the crimp and the very special kind of ferrule design. Now on the side, we can see that the plushness of this brush is actually quite amazing, and even here at the top, it looks very oval to me, which is actually quite surprising to me. You guys can see that. You guys can see how nice and rounded the tips of the bristles of the brush is here. To a certain degree, it again reminds me of the pads of our fingers or even our thumb, and it just it really confuses me a bit, because I actually love brush heads that are round. So when you look from the top here, it's so big, so I'm like, there's like a disconnect. So that's what it's also very intriguing for me, is that I don't know how I'm gonna use it. Anyway, we'll get to that later. But it's very plush, and it's very soft, and the bristles here is actually made of undyed and dyed Psycho Gold here. So it's actually very, very soft to the touch, like amazingly soft. It's also quite resilient. To a certain degree, there's a nice snap back of the bristles here. Nice density. And look at that strength. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. So again, just by touch alone, I can instantly say that this is a nice brush to use if you want to apply color or product fast on the face, which is again a very Sonia G trademark with all of her brushes, wherein you can apply and blend out product in no time. Okay, so now back to the brush head here. I love the nice oval shape that we see here, because the brush head of the Niji Pro actually reminds me of the brush head of the Mama Hinoki brush that we see here. They both have this very nice oval kind of a brush head shape, and even in the way that they flare out, it's almost the same, and even the design of the base of the ferrule here is almost the same, which looks very amazing to me, because they're like a combination between a paddle brush and a fan brush. Like if those two brush types had a baby, it would have been this type of a brush head design. And I think Sonia has been working on this brush head design for quite some time, because I do remember her posting a picture that she was working on, like, you know, some prototypes for some of her brushes in the future, and I think this brush head design might have been one of them. So it's very interesting to actually see them, like, you know, here for myself, especially for brushes of like almost the same design as you guys can see here, but very different, like, you know, sizes. Of course, I love that they're actually more, like, you know, they have this very rounded design here. The reason why I like these types of brush head design is because when you actually apply the brush head on the on, like, you know, the surface of the skin or on your face, this part here actually, like, you know, fits into the skin because of the pressure that you exert into the brush, and then the outer bristles here is the one that actually helps to actually buff out the product. And that just makes, I think, to me, just like, you know, thinking about it now, that actually makes product application to appear fast and blend out extremely well at the same time. So again, this is made of psycho here, so by doing that alone, I didn't feel any prickling sensation, nothing, not at all. And it, like, you know, it just lays very well into like the natural contours of my face. And look how much real estate this brush covers, and I have a very small face. So just for comparison, this is my palm of my hand, so this is like around maybe 7 inches. So just to give you an idea on how small my face is, and if I'm actually in a hurry, I could actually use this brush just to apply, like, you know, powder, maybe bronzer, I don't know, like blush maybe, like highlights, whatever. So I think this can be a very nice, like, you know, multi-use kind of a brush. And because this has dyed psycho hairs on the bristles here on the brush head, I think we can use this for much more difficult types of powders to pick up, make it be, like, you know, hard pressed powders, big gelée powders, bronzers, like, you know, blushes. So we'll see how well this will work a little bit later in the video. Okay, now as I said earlier in the video, I don't have any other kind of brush with this kind of density in my collection, but I think I can fairly compare the Niji Pro to the Sonia G Sculpt One brush, so we can just see the difference between like an actual fan brush and the Niji Pro. So yeah, now I know this hasn't been in stock on Beautylish for quite some time, so I don't know if this is going to come back or it's going to be, like, you know, a collector's item now, because I really think that Sonia G's brush line is going to be evolving. I do remember her stating in one of her posts that she's going to be releasing a lot of brushes that are more targeted to collectors at this time. So I do hope though that this comes back, because it's actually a very beautiful brush and I love using this. But anyway, back to comparison. So this is how the Niji Pro looks like beside the Sculpt One brush. Again, aside from the handles, because the Sculpt One brush is actually from the Fundamental series of Sonia G. The ferrules are very different. The way that the brush head blooms are very different. The densities of these brushes are very different as well. Because if we take a look at the Sculpt One brush here, we can see how, like, you know, the density is like located here in the middle of the brush head, and it kind of like thins out as it like nears the edge of the brush head. So this is the one that you can actually use to, like, you know, apply a much more targeted bronzer application, and that's what I love about this brush. Now in comparison to the Niji Pro, it's actually, like, you know, it's very even as it actually nears the edge here, as you guys can see. So they're very different brushes, and they can function similarly, but they also function like, you know, very differently. This one can have a much more targeted approach, while this one for sure will have a much more softer and blended product application on the face. And if we put the Niji Pro on top of the Sculpt One brush, we can actually see that the Sculpt One brush actually blooms in a much more wider sense than the Niji Pro. So let me just show you guys here. So I know it's a very bad comparison because they are very different brush heads, and also they're just like, they're similar but they're very distinct. But by far the density of the Niji Pro is far more superior than the density of the brush head of the Sculpt One brush. So these are the two brushes side by side, so that we guys can just marvel at their beauty. Okay, so now let's try out these brushes. Of course, I'm going to be using the Jumbo base, but I'm going to concentrate more on getting to know the Niji Pro brush because I've actually gotten to know the Jumbo base already from the Mini Keyaki set. Now, one thing also that we're going to get to know today is this new Maybelline Fit Me with Aerogel foundation. I found this at the drugstore when I was there the other day because I was just buying some vitamins, and the packaging of this comes in a squeezy tube, and it has a nice cap here that you squeeze the product out. So let's try this. So I got the color 220, so that's usually my color for the Fit Me from Maybelline. So let's try this. So I actually have all of my skincare down and I have sunscreen on. So let's see how this works. Okay, so I'm actually quite impressed with this foundation. I'm still going to be playing around with it some more, but so far I can see that it's not actually sinking into my pores, especially here around my nose and on my nose because I have a lot of pores there, and even here on this part of my cheeks, which is actually nice. And I love, there's a certain glow that this foundation gives, so I'm actually I kind of like it. Anywho, let us continue. So what I want to do right now is I just want to add some bronzer. So I'll be using this Fenty Beauty cream bronzer in Macchiato. So I also used this during the first time that I was getting to know the Jumbo base in the Mini Keyaki set. And I'm also going to be using the same bronzer because I think this works well with my skin tone, and I like how neutral this actually looks on me. Alright, and just like that, I have some bronzer down just to add some dimension on the skin. Of course, just to show you guys how you can use the Jumbo base in more ways than one aside from just adding foundation. Okay, now I'm just going to add some blush, and this is the color Waking Up from Ilya, and I'm going to be using the Jumbo base from the Mini Keyaki set just to apply the color because I have actually not applied blush using the Jumbo base, I beg your pardon, and I'm just going to apply it here. And just like that, the Jumbo base has actually applied a very nice diffuse amount of color into the cheeks extremely fast. And I love this color from Ilya. It's a very nice, browny, peachy shade that works very well with my skin. It gives my skin a very nice natural flush, I have to say. So at least you guys can see that the Jumbo base can also work in applying blush and blending them out in no time. Alright, and then now I'm going to use this pressed translucent setting powder from Laura Mercier, and I'm going to be using the Niji Pro brush with this because I think this brush can actually just, pick up a nice amount of product from the pan, and I can actually see that it actually picks up a very even amount of pigmentation. And let's try to see how well this will apply powder on the skin. Okay, so I'm just tapping it, and I'm also going to tap and buff at the same time. Okay, now I do have to say though is that this brush, despite on how dense it is actually not disturbing the foundation that was applied on my skin, and I don't see any streaking whatsoever, and it's actually applying a very nice amount of powder on my face, which is actually quite surprising because again, the translucence from Laura Mercier has a certain pigment on it. It's not totally translucent, but it has a certain pigment. And sometimes if you apply too much of the Laura Mercier translucent powders, it actually can, like, leave a white cast on the skin. But I do not see a white cast at all. I still see the color of my skin, and I still see the color of the foundation that was applied earlier. And I can actually see, like, you see the difference, that the powder has actually mattified my skin a little bit, but there's still this, like, very natural dewy finish to it. Wow, I like this brush. Amazing. So let me just continue. So what I'm doing now is I'm gonna get powder using the like, this part of the brush, the outer part of the brush, and I'm going to set my under eye with this. Although I didn't use concealer today because I don't feel that I need to use any concealer, because I was actually able to sleep well last night. Okay, look at that. This is amazing. I love this brush for that, and I also love it that you're actually able to apply product in hard to reach areas like your under eye. So again, if you're someone who actually, like, is out rushing and you only want to have one brush, I think the Niji Pro can be used as a very multi-use brush. Okay, so I'm just going to set the rest of my face. Wow, will you look at that? Very nice and even, and again, I was able to apply powder in no time. Okay, so this is how the Niji Pro applies powder, pressed powder, on the face. Okay, so now I want to use this baked bronzing powder with the Niji Pro. So I'm going to be using the side of the brush where it doesn't have any powder. And it does pick up a very nice amount of product extremely fast. And I'm going to be careful, like, just take my time. But I always take my time when I do makeup anyway. And I'm just going to apply this right on top of my cheekbones, just to mimic the way that I get hit by the sun. But oh my god, look how very nice and diffused this brush applied this baked bronzer. I'm going to apply a little bit of that here on my forehead and on the other side. I'm going to pick up some more, and I'm going to apply it here on my cheeks. Alright, so this is how the Niji Pro applies baked bronzer products on the face. Very diffused, very even, very easy, and very well blended. I am so surprised. Wow, look at that. So if you are someone who prefers to apply bronzers this way, this is a very nice brush to use. Like, not sculptural, but it just really helps you to blend out the pigment. Like, at least, like, it's making me look like I have a very nice natural flush on my skin when I, like, have just like walked under the sun for like maybe 20 minutes, which is actually great. So let me just apply a little bit of that here on the bridge of my nose and blend it out. Alright, so now I actually want to apply some of this, like, finishing powder from Laura Mercier. Look how hard pressed that is. Again, this is a baked formula, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm just buffing out the brush head here on a microfiber towel so that we get rid of all the other products that we used on the face recently. And I'm gonna dry clean the brush head first before I continue. Where's that? So I'm just gonna dip the brush head here on this pressed powder, and I'm gonna buff it here on the microfiber towel on the table, just so that I remove all of the pigments from the baked bronzer. Alright, so let's apply some of this finishing powder, and I'm just like being very generous with my swirling of the brush here, because after all, this is a very hard finishing powder, very hard, the way that it was made is very hard. And let's see if this brush is actually able to pick up some of the product. Yep, I can see some of the glow appearing now. Okay, I'm going to apply that here. and blend it into the bronzer for a much more perfected skin look. Okay, I'm actually glad that the foundation that we tried on today was it's a matte foundation, so at least we can see how this finishing powder will look like on the skin, and also the baked bronzer, and how well this Niji Pro actually applies all of these products on my skin. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. Very, very nice. I am very happy on how the Niji Pro actually performed for me today, and at least I know that we can use this for different types of powdered products, may it be for actual pressed powders, bronzers, finishing powders. Fantastic. And let me finish this off by applying some of this blush. This is a very cheap blush that I bought when I was in the province, and let me see how well this will actually apply some color in the cheeks. And this blush is a baked formula, and this has a lot of nice shimmers on it, lots of micro glitters as well. And the Niji Pro is actually able to apply a very nicely diffused amount of color into the cheeks, and it doesn't really disturb the products that you laid before the actual product that you're applying. So at least you don't really have to worry when you're applying makeup and then you're really worried if you're applying one product and then you apply another product with the same brush and then you apply another product, that it's gonna pick up the pigment that you laid on your skin, because that's really what happens sometimes, especially if you're using products that are not formulated well. The brushes or if you use your fingers, actually will pick up the product and it will leave spots on your skin. But I have to say that I did not experience that with the Niji Pro at all today. So I am so happy that I finally decided to get this. I don't know why it took me so long, but I'm just so happy that it called out to me. Anyway, that's my vlog for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed me showing you how much I enjoyed using the jumbo base brush, and I had to buy a double. And of course, I also hope that you enjoyed me showing you how I am getting to know the Niji Pro brush from Sonia G. I really don't know what took me so long to get this, but I'm so glad this started calling out to me while I was purchasing the jumbo base brush from the Beautylish website. Anywho, so that's it from me today. If you guys have any more questions about all of the products that I used today, and also if you have questions about the Niji Pro or the jumbo base brush or anything else, please leave them down in the comments box and let's have a conversation about it. So I'm gonna let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye!